Before I start, let me just say what a pleasure it is to be here and to be invited into this pulpit. This is my first time in the pulpit, and I'm a new member of the congregation, but I've actually been visiting here since 1980, and now I'm living in Albuquerque, which is something I always thought I might like to do, and it's great to be here. Another Thanksgiving weekend, that last outpost of autumn has come and gone. It was the one thing standing between ourselves and winter, meteorological winter, if not calendar winter. And although the weather has been balmy of late, we can't deny winter's arrival any longer, can we, with the short days and long nights bearing down on us. As today's candle lighting reminds us, this is the first Sunday of Advent, and that means that Christmas is little more than 3 weeks away. Lots of people are becoming much busier than usual. There are shopkeepers and store clerks who hope they'll be busy. There are mall Santas and postal clerks and letter carriers. There are bell ringers, brass players, and church folk. And along with all these, more quietly, because less publicly, there are psychotherapists and social workers, pastoral counselors, and chaplains. The seasonal blues are a well-known phenomenon. People in the healing professions always report an increase in distress this time of year. For many, this time of supposed joy is riddled with despondence, despair, depression. For some, the blues set in right after Thanksgiving and last all the way through December. My friend and colleague, Victor Carpenter, calls them the demons of Advent. Now, the first half of my life was spent living in wintry places: northern Jersey, Michigan, Massachusetts. Back then, I assumed that the seasonal blues were triggered by the climate: the short, dark days, the growing cold, the ice and snow. But then I went to live in Southern California, the land of sunshine and year-round roses, and I learned there that the weather is only part of it. For example, not long after I moved to Los Angeles, there was a long article in the LA Times about how to cope with seasonal sadness. So I thought to myself, okay, it's not just a northern thing. Part of the problem is expectations. It's the syndrome of rejoice, rejoice, we have no choice. That's lifting a phrase a little bit out of context from Stephen Stills. But amidst the official good cheer, there doesn't seem to be much room even for neutral feelings, let alone sad or negative ones. And of course, nothing kills joy faster than having it forced on us. But perhaps we don't really get to the heart of the matter until we recognize that contradictions are built right into this season. As historian and journalist Gary Wills has written, and as Doug so beautifully read, this allegedly joyful season calls up intense emotions that heighten our memories and yearnings, and they shake us like children sometimes for lost love. I actually experienced a few moments just like that just on Friday night, when I accompanied my husband Chuck and his tuba to Manal School and the bug light ceremonies. It is amazing how a few strains of certain carols can trigger such a flood of memories and feelings. Another contradiction: many of us look forward to Christmas as a family time. Hearing from family and close friends is a special joy at this time of year. But if we're separated from those to whom we're closest, this may also be the time that we feel that separation most acutely. And the cards and letters we receive are as likely to bring sad tidings as glad ones. One more marriage ended, perhaps, or one more friend with cancer. A couple of weeks ago, here at Sunday service during the meditation, my heart was touched by the number of people in the congregation who were facing the death of either their mother or their father. It reminded me of something that I read once, that in any given year, 20% of adults, that's 1 in every 5 of us, are grieving the loss of a parent. And of course, that doesn't even count the other people we might be grieving: spouses, siblings, children, friends, even pets. It adds up to a lot of tender hearts in December. And from personal experience, I know how this time of year can break wounds open again, can renew grief that had begun to heal. And for at least some Unitarian Universalists, this season can carry a special kind of pain. It's hard to ignore Christmas or Hanukkah, but we may not be sure what they mean anymore. All the trappings of the holidays may remind us that we've lost the faith that we had in our childhood, and we may become aware, as Salman Rushdie once put it, that we have a hole in our heart where God used to be. So how do we deal with all of these feelings that may crop up for us? In my own life, I've found various ways. Some years it really hasn't been an issue. I've stayed light and cheerful and enjoyed everything. Other years have been hard, but also times of spiritual breakthrough. And then there were just 1 or 2 years that I'll always remember as the Christmas from hell. Times when I felt bereft and sometimes even hopeless. There are many things we can do in an attempt to keep the demons at bay. For example, if we are suffering that loss of meaning, UU style, we could start by reminding ourselves, you don't have to take the stories literally. You can take them seriously without taking them literally. And then, if we're feeling beset by the holidays' demands, we can follow Leonard Cohen's advice: forget your perfect offering. We can take steps to ensure that our celebrations are authentic to us, rather than someone else's notion of what the holidays are supposed to be. There's actually a fine book available entitled Unplug the Christmas Machine that can help with some of this. It's full of exercises and meditations to help us get in touch with our own hearts, our own values and wishes and needs, and to make a plan for the holidays that are in accordance with these. So these various tactics can be very useful. But I'd like to suggest also another less obvious approach that might also bear fruit. And that is to accept the demons of Advent, to stop trying to fight them and just let them be. Now, I would not recommend this for anyone with a major depression or somebody who's entertaining suicidal thoughts. If you are struggling with these or have a friend who is, please ignore what I'm about to say and get help as soon as possible. But for garden variety seasonal blues, it might be beneficial simply to acknowledge the blues, to assume that they are going to crop up for us at some point, and then plan in advance how we will nurture ourselves through it. We could take even one more step. We might decide not only to accept the demons, but to welcome and trust them. Could it be that they are messengers carrying important truths? Perhaps the demons are trying to tell us that this season isn't supposed to be all sweetness and joy. In fact, the season of Advent that we enter today wasn't meant to be a light, frothy, or sentimental time. Quite the opposite, in fact. The local Franciscan Richard Rohr points out that Advent really isn't supposed to be about getting ready for the baby Jesus. It's actually about something far more momentous, preparing for the inbreaking of the kingdom of God, which is just another way of saying the reign of love and justice and peace. It occurs to me that in our Western secularized culture, we've tended to lose a sense of time's sacredness. We tend to think of time as a linear thing, marching forward one day after another, each day equal to the rest. In Greek, that kind of time is known as chronos, as in chronology. But in sacred traditions, including pagan, Jewish, and Christian, time is cyclical. And in a cyclical context, time acquires shape and texture. It is not chronos time, but kairos time. That's a word that's hard to translate, kairos, but that has to do with the fullness of time. There is a rhythm to kairos time. There are ripe times and fallow times, times to celebrate and times to weep. And then there are the times when we are invited simply to watch and wait. Sacred calendars track not only the journey of our planet around the sun, they also trace our human journey. In the Christian calendar, Advent, as I said, is meant to be a solemn time, one of those times of fast in preparation for the later feast. Now, Advent isn't quite as solemn as Lent, but it's nevertheless a thoughtful season, a time for reflection, self-examination, and that's why its liturgical color is purple. That's the color of royalty, but also repentance. And the biblical readings in the lectionary for Advent are full of doom and gloom based on the cries of people groaning under oppression. The prophets plead to God to rend the heavens and come down. Come quickly and save us. People who take the season of Advent really seriously don't celebrate Christmas until it's almost at hand. They really get into Advent. They won't sing Christmas carols in church, only Advent hymns, and they might not even put up a Christmas tree until Christmas Eve. Now that may be extreme, and I've discovered that suggesting it is a losing proposition in UU congregations. Nevertheless, I do find a profound psychology in that approach. At a spiritual level, it makes sense to let Advent be itself rather than a frenzied gearing up for Christmas. Advent reminds us the vision of Christmas, the vision of peace on earth, is not realized. There is still a wide chasm between the world as it is and the world we work and long for. Advent doesn't gloss over anything, and because of this, it leads us down into new commitments and deep places of the heart. My late colleague Roy Phillips once wrote, "Advent is an opportunity to become fully aware of our own darkness. It will be different for each one of us, and it will be different this year from last." Roy asks, what form does it take for us this year? Failure? guilt, shame, sadness, disappointment, compulsion, puzzlement, loneliness, frenzy, boredom, fear, hopelessness. Then he counsels, whatever it might be, get in touch with it, experience it, own it, let it be there, meditate on it, pray about it, and then, and not too soon, listen for the promise of Christmas. So Advent is about waiting. It's about preparing for birth. We might compare the struggles of this season to birth pangs. We are preparing for new life and love to emerge in the world around us and also emerge within our own souls. As the great Rhineland mystic Meister Eckhart once asked, "What good is it to us if Mary gave birth to a child of God long ago, but we do not also give birth to a child of God in our time and our culture?" Now is the time of watching and waiting, the time of preparation and expectation. Now is the season of hope unfolding, the dark, fertile season when love is waiting to be born. May we each in our own way prepare the soil. May we each in our hearts make room for new birth and new life. So may it be.
Ushers, would you please prepare to hand out extra doves? Excuse me. Breathe. Breathe deeply. I mean it. I don't see you. There we go. Breathe in peace. Breathe out love.